tell me what other rooms Automate VX could handle.
Automate VX works really well in high-profile spaces and also very large spaces. So these might be places that you used to bring in a video production crew. Maybe you had a dedicated staff member who would run the meeting, or perhaps you thought you just couldn't add video conferencing into them. Typically, these are going to be your really, really large boardrooms. We've seen boardrooms up to something like 50 people in them. A lot of times they're facing in multiple directions. Also very high profile boardrooms where you have very ornate ceilings and particular challenges about where you might place the cameras. So being able to put cameras in various locations around the room comes in really handy. Also, we see this in a lot of spaces where people are just looking different directions. So that could be something like a council chambers. This could be an active learning classroom where the audience participation is just as important as the presenter, so you will need to be able to capture those multiple viewpoints. The Automate VX system has dynamic composition. It has a feature called layout, so you're able to see, let's say, the presenter and the person asking the question at the same time, which makes a really engaging experience for whoever's watching that remotely. We also see this in a lot of custom spaces. So that could be like a custom experience center. Maybe you've got a cafeteria that sometimes becomes an all-hands space. Those are really great applications for Automate VX.
Okay, so we're talking about classrooms and training spaces. What if I only need to capture the presenter?
This is where that meeting application that we talked about before really comes into play. When you only need to capture the presenter, you're going to be looking for a presenter tracking camera that does a really good job of following somebody while they're moving around. And Crestron offers two great solutions. The first one is the auto tracker camera, and this is a 20x optical PTZ camera that's really going to be able to lock onto the presenter and follow them very smoothly. It has a wide angle camera in the base, and it's going to use information from motion and facial detection to follow that presenter. Typically, it's placed about 15 to 50 feet away from the presenter. For smaller presentation-only rooms, the Falcon ePTZ is another option. It's a more cost-effective option. It uses the same algorithm as the auto tracker camera, but instead of having that optical PTZ camera, it's an ePTZ camera, which means that it's going to digitally pan, tilt, and zoom. It's going to take a 4K image, crop that to follow the presenter. And this is typically recommended in a range of 15 to 20 feet. It does have a 44-degree horizontal field of view. So if you're about 25 feet back, you're going to get a presentation area width of about 20 feet.
What if I don't need the level of Automate VX intelligent design in the room and I want more of a standard kind of space room, conference rooms, training rooms? Is there a plug and play solution?
Yeah, so the rooms that you're talking about are usually under 30 feet. They hold, 8 to 12 people. These are very common spaces in a lot of different organizations. And if you're holding a meeting in those spaces where it's consistently full and you really want to be able to capture each person, as they're talking and the focus of the meeting is switching between various different people, you're still going to want some level of speaker tracking. And Crestron offers a solution called the Hawk. It's a dual 12x optical zoom PTZ camera solution. What it does is it's going to detect faces in the space and then also has audio location detecting built into it. So it's able to match the audio location up with the closest face. And that's going to provide those great close-ups in those spaces that you mentioned. And the Hawk is sold as a standalone solution.
Okay, that's great. So would you say speaker tracking is required in these spaces?
That's a great question. That's where the application of the meetings that you're having in the space matters. So if you have a brainstorming meeting that's rather informal and people chime in, you may want to just ensure that everybody can be seen. We also see group framing coming into play in these spaces where they're not always full. Sometimes one person goes into that room, sometimes 2 or 3 throughout the day. Those are typically group framing applications for those rooms.
So what are some group framing options I have?
The Auto Framer camera is an optical zoom group framing camera, and it's going to be mounted under the front monitor, usually about 4 to 6 feet off the ground. And it uses a technology that's very similar to the auto tracker camera, where it has a reference camera in the base, and then it's going to be directing around a PTZ camera that's up at the top. To show however many people are at the table. If there's one person, the auto framer camera will zoom in very close to be able to show you that close-up of that person. And this is where the optical zoom is very important. At about 25 feet from the camera, you'll get a very high quality close-up of someone that's sitting alone at the head of the table. And that can be really important to some organizations. The auto framer camera is sold standalone. For spaces that are going to be mostly full all of the time, or perhaps slightly smaller, the Hudley and the IQ and Hudley L1 are great options. Like the Falcon, they're ePTZ cameras, which means that there's no moving parts. They're more cost effective, and Crestron sells these as part of the popular desktop UC kits and soundbar.
Can you help me decide between an L1 and an IQ?
The L1 camera has better image quality. Typically, you're going to use that in a slightly larger room because of the image quality. The IQ is going to work better in a slightly smaller room because it has a wider field of view. So if you have a table that's, let's say, a little closer to the monitor, you'll be wanting to use the IQ so you can make sure that everyone can be seen.
Let's talk about small conference rooms and huddle spaces. What are my concerns there?
The lower cost ePTZ cameras like the Hudley IQ and the Jabra Panicast really shine in these spaces. You're going to want to take a look at the furniture. You'll want to keep the field of view in mind since participants in these rooms typically sit rather close to the camera. If the table is set back a couple of feet, the Hudley IQ is going to be a great solution. It has a 120-degree field of view. If the table is right up against the wall, you're going to want to look at the Jabra Panicast. That camera has a 180-degree field of view. It's got 3 cameras that can be stitched together. Jabra typically recommends this in a space that's, around 15 by 15, so that's right in line with those huddle spaces in small conference rooms. Crestron sells the Jabra Panicast built into the Panicast 50 soundbar, and that's in the B31 and BX31 kits.
What about intelligent video from codecs?
Crestron's intelligent video technologies integrate very nicely with those software-based intelligent video capabilities that are built into the codecs. And these are really geared towards those small and medium-sized conference rooms. Those are the rooms that you'll typically see utilizing those type of features.
So you've mentioned standalone and kits. Can you help me understand what we offer?
Crestron offers several kits that are Microsoft Teams and Zoom certified as a whole solution. This is the camera, the microphone, the touchscreen, the compute unit, so that's the UC engine. These make it very easy to implement a lot of rooms. Standalone camera solutions can be used with any video conferencing platform and integrated into rooms with third-party equipment. One of the great things about Crestron is that we're always available to provide assistance on selecting the right product.
So I know we've talked about which solutions go into which room types. What else can you tell me?
So the next thing we need to know is about how to integrate these solutions technically, primarily the mounting and wiring. A lot of this is in the manual, but they do need to be thought of during the design process. It's these little things that are very easy to do when you're designing for the room, but they can be challenging or costly to fix if the product is already installed or just about to be installed.
And what solutions will be covered?
We will primarily be going through the standalone cameras and the kits. Automate VX is a very flexible solution, so there'll be a separate course for that.
Well, this has been extremely helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So please stay tuned for more videos from CTI.